We can't always control the information that we receive as developers, but we can always control how we structure it and organize it once we've got it. I recently came across yet another situation where I needed to work with a text-based ranking system. You know, when some gem decides to create a ranking system like good, great, awesome, and spectacular, there's no numerical order system behind it, just words as a ranking system. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to handle this and find items with the highest order of importance and then store them with JavaScript. The best way to run through this, because it's such a conceptual tutorial, is to work on an example. Being the smart developer that I am, I decided to go with an example that I am completely unfamiliar with, which is playing poker. So as you can see in the notepad, I have a list of all the possible winning hands in poker, starting with the best possible hand, which is royal flush, and going all the way down to a high card as a winning hand. So let's say I'm going to have a poker night. And what I want to do is store the best hand I got for that night, so I can brag to my friends later. So this is what we're going to do with this example. Now I'll show you two ways to handle this, one with arrays and one with objects. First we'll work with the array example. And we'll start off by creating a constant variable called poker. And we'll put that all in an array. So we're going to sort our array from the lowest performing hand to the highest performing hand. So our lowest performing hand is high card. And then separate it by a comma. And I'll go through this quickly. And we've built our array. Awesome. So our lowest card is in position 0 of poker. So for example, if I type in console.log and we type in poker, position 0, then that's going to report high card. Now if you find the highest card, which would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so position 9, that's going to report royal flush. As you can see here. Awesome, everything's working. Okay, so we also need a variable to store our highest hand in for the night. This variable is going to change, so instead of using the constant variable, we're going to use the let variable. And we'll name it best hand. And let's just say our first hand of the night was awesome. We got a 3 of a kind. Next, we need a way to determine whether the next hand we get is better than our 3 of a kind or worse than our 3 of a kind. So we're going to make a function for this. And we'll call this set most important. And we'll just put a little underscore in. We'll make this array because we'll have another type in a moment. Cool. So our array is going to need 3 parameters. Our first parameter is going to be the list. So that's this poker list we have here. The next parameter is going to be the stored item. And the stored item is our best hand. After that, we need the new item to compare against. After that, we're just going to return, and then we're going to use a ternary operator here. So ternary operator is like a reduced down if statement. So if we go list dot index of, list index of allows us to find the index of a value inside our list. So our list is poker here. If we're looking for something in our list, which will be our stored item. So if I type in stored item here, it's going to find its position or index in this list. So right now, our stored item is going to be best hand, so 3 of a kind. So it will go through this poker list here and go 0, 1, 2, 3. 3. We found it, and it'll report back 3. So if 3 is greater than our list again, and we're going to invoke the index of, and this time it's going to be our new item. Okay. And for example, if we got a flush, it's going to find the index of flush by going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and store that item. So if 3 is greater than 5, well, 3 isn't greater than 5, so it will do the failure statement. If our new item is high card, then 3 is greater than 0, so it will report true. So the next thing we need to do with our ternary operator is put a question mark in. So it's asking, is it one of these options, true or false? If the stored item index is greater than the new item index, then we want to keep the stored item. Otherwise, we want to keep the new item. Cool. So let's use this function in some examples. So first, let's log our current hand, and we'll call it first hand of the night. And we'll just return best hand. And that's going to return our 3 of a kind. On our next hand, let's say we get a pair. So let's use this function now. So we need to update our best hand. And the best hand is going to equal set most important in this array. And our list is going to be poker. And then our stored item is going to be best hand. And our new item is going to be pair for our next hand. And let's console log this. And we'll call this best hand is, and then best hand. Cool. Let's select these 2 rows and duplicate them. All right, let's make a couple more versions of this for the night for our game for this evening. Let's do 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we've got pair. So we know that our 3 of a kind is better than a pair, so it should report back 3 of a kind. In our next hand, we get a flush, which is fantastic. So that should replace our 3 of a kind. After that, we get a straight. So we can see here straight is not as good as a flush, so it shouldn't keep the straight, it should just maintain the flush. And then the hand after that, we get another 3 of a kind. Which is this one here. Let's just be lazy and copy it. And then for our final hand of the night, we get a straight flush. And run. So as you can see, our first hand is 3 of a kind. Our next hand is a pair, but the best hand is 3 of a kind. After that, we get a flush. So we store flush and remove 3 of a kind. After that, we get a straight. Straight's not as good as a flush, so we keep flush. Then we get another 3 of a kind, not as good as a flush again, so we keep the flush. And then we get a straight flush, which is better than a flush, so we keep the straight flush. This is a pretty good approach, but it's just a little bit slower than storing our poker hands as an object. So let's just modify a few things a bit and change this to an object. So we'll keep everything here, and instead of having our array brackets, we'll use our curly brackets. And we may as well copy this in here. So what we're going to do, we'll Control X and Control V, and we'll get rid of that last square brackets. For our high cards, these are going to be the properties, and their values are going to be numbers. So this one is going to be position 0. This will be 1, 2, and so on. Cool. So now we've got our new object. This time around, all we need to do is to call the property and that will retrieve the number. And then we can compare the numbers against each other. So let's head down into our set most important array, and let's change this to object. We can keep everything else the way it is. And then what we're going to return this time around is the list, and we want to use the property name. This is going to be stored item, if I can spell, stored item, and the same with our list. So this will be new item. And everything else is just fine. Cool. So we need to make some changes here. We'll do them quickly by just highlighting this, hitting Control D, down one, Control D, Control D, Control D. And what do we call it now? Object OBJ. OBJ. Nice. Cool. Let's hit save. And if we didn't make any mistakes, we should be okay. So let's run and debug. And now you can see everything works again as an object array. So the object is probably better for a larger list of ordered items, but an array might be better if the ordered list of items changes occasionally, because it's much easier to change the order of an array as opposed to changing the order of a large object. Now I have a lot more examples in the written tutorial, along with further explanations on how everything works to help get your head around this particular topic. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more JavaScript tutorials like this, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Until next time.